The vast expanse of the Milky Way galaxy had known peace for centuries. Hundreds of alien races lived in harmony, trading resources and knowledge across the stars. But all that changed when the conquerors arrived. No one knew where the conquerors came from. Some said they were from another galaxy. Others believed they came from the dark space between galaxies. Whatever their origin, their intentions were clear: total domination. The conquerors' massive ships appeared without warning at the edges of populated systems. Their vessels were unlike anything the galactic races had ever seen. Black as the void of space, they seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Each ship was the size of a small moon, bristling with weapons that could shatter planets. At first, the advanced races of the galaxy didn't worry too much. They had faced threats before and always emerged victorious. The Zorthans, with their psychic abilities, thought they could simply disable the conquerors' minds. The Mech Collective believed their superior eye would outsmart any invader. Even the ancient Eldari, with their mastery of space-time manipulation, felt confident in their defenses. They were all wrong. The conquerors swept through the outer systems like a plague of locusts. Their weapons cut through the strongest shields like paper. Their minds were impenetrable to psychic attacks, and their battle strategies were so advanced that even the most sophisticated AIs couldn't predict their moves. System after system fell. Planets were stripped of resources, their populations enslaved or worse. The galaxy had never seen such efficient and merciless invaders. The Galactic Council, a body representing all known sentient species, called an emergency meeting. Representatives from every race gathered on the neutral planet of Centauri Prime. The Grand Assembly Hall, usually a place of measured debate and diplomacy, now buzzed with fear and panic. High Counselor Zixna, a tall blue-skinned being with 4 arms, called the meeting to order. "Esteemed colleagues," she said, her voice amplified throughout the hall, "we face a threat unlike any in our recorded history. The conquerors have already taken 12 systems. We must act now, or all will be lost." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. But when Zixna asked for volunteers to lead the fight against the conquerors, the hall fell silent. The Zorthan representative, his large eyes blinking nervously, spoke up. "Our fleets were decimated in the Orion sector. We have nothing left to give." A robotic voice from the Mech Collective added, "Our most advanced battle algorithms have failed. We calculate a 99.87% chance of defeat if we engage the conquerors again." One by one, each race gave their reasons for not fighting. Some had already lost too much. Others feared extinction if they opposed the conquerors. Even the mighty Eldari, their shimmering forms usually so confident, admitted they were outmatched. As the meeting wore on, despair settled over the assembly like a heavy fog. It seemed that no one in the galaxy had the power or the will to stand against this unstoppable force. Then, from the back of the hall, a small voice spoke up. It belonged to Glix, a minor diplomat from a race of tiny insect-like beings. "What about the humans?" he chittered. At first, no one paid attention, but Glix persisted, his antennae twitching excitedly. "The primitive species from the Sol system. Earth. They're not part of the council yet, but they might help." Now the hall erupted in laughter. The humans, those backward beings who had barely left their own planet, who still fought among themselves over trivial matters, whose technology was centuries behind the galactic standard. High Counselor Zixna raised all 4 of her hands for silence. "Glix, surely you jest. The humans are. They're cowards," someone in the crowd finished for her. "Always fighting, then running away. No honor, no strength." Glix's compound eyes gleamed. "But that's just it. They're survivors. They adapt. They never give up, even when all hope seems lost. Maybe that's exactly what we need." The hall fell silent again, but this time it was a silence of contemplation. They were desperate, and desperation often leads to unusual choices. Finally, Zixma spoke. "It seems we have no other options. We will contact Earth, May the stars have mercy on us, all if this is our last hope. As the council dispersed, a mixture of doubt and the faintest glimmer of hope filled the air. Could these cowardly humans really be the galaxy's last chance? Only time would tell, and time was quickly running out. The decision to contact Earth was not an easy one for the Galactic Council. Many members still doubted the wisdom of reaching out to such a primitive species. But with the conquerors advancing rapidly, they had no choice. A small, sleek spaceship was sent to Earth. It landed in a field outside the United Nations headquarters in New York City. The ship's arrival caused panic at first. Military forces from around the world surrounded the area, weapons ready. But when the ship's door opened, and a group of strange-looking beings emerged with their hands raised in peace, the world watched in awe. It was humanity's first official contact with alien life. The aliens requested an immediate meeting with Earth's leaders. Within hours, representatives from major nations gathered in the UN building. The room was tense as the alien delegation, led by Ambassador Xanthor of the Galactic Council, prepared to speak. Xanthor was a tall, slender being with shimmering silver skin and large almond-shaped eyes. When he spoke, his voice was soft but clear. "People of Earth," he began, "we come to you in a time of great need." The room fell silent as Xanthor explained the situation. He told them about the vast galactic community, the threat of the conquerors, and the desperate need for help. As he spoke, images of distant worlds and terrifying battles flashed on screens around the room. When Xanthor finished, the human leaders looked at each other in disbelief. Some thought it was a trick. Others were excited about the possibilities. But most were simply overwhelmed. The President of the United States was the first to speak. "This is a lot to take in," she said. "You're saying that we, humanity, are your last hope against these conquerors." Xanthor nodded solemnly. "Yes, our most advanced races have failed. We believe your unique qualities might be what we need." The Chinese premier leaned forward. "Unique qualities? What do you mean?" Here, Xanthor hesitated. How could he explain that the council saw humans as both a last resort and a potential liability? He chose his words carefully. "Your adaptability, your resilience, your ability to thrive in adversity." The room buzzed with murmurs. The humans didn't realize that Xanthor was sugarcoating the council's true opinion of them. The Russian president stood up, his face red with anger. "You think we don't know what you really mean?" he shouted. "You think we're too primitive to read between the lines? You see us as cannon fodder." Xanthor's silver skin seemed to pale. He hadn't expected the humans to be so perceptive. We," he stammered. But before he could continue, a young woman stood up. She was the prime minister of a small island nation, usually overlooked in global politics. "It doesn't matter what they think of us," she said firmly. "What matters is that the galaxy needs help, and we can provide it." Her words seemed to change the atmosphere in the room. The human leaders began to nod, a new determination in their eyes. The UN Secretary General spoke next. "Ambassador Xanthor, we understand the gravity of the situation, but we need time to discuss this among ourselves. Can you give us 24 hours? Xanthor agreed, though he worried about the delay. Every moment counted in the fight against the conquerors. As the aliens left the room, the human leaders began to debate. Some wanted to ignore the alien plea and focus on protecting Earth. Others saw this as humanity's chance to prove itself on a galactic stage. The discussions went on through the night. News of the alien visit spread around the world, causing a mix of fear, excitement, and disbelief among Earth's population. Finally, as the 24-hour deadline approached, the human leaders reached a decision. They called the alien delegation back to the UN. The world watched as the UN Secretary General stood to address Xanthor and his team. The fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy, hung on his next words. "Ambassador," he said, his voice strong and clear, "on behalf of humanity, I have an answer for you." Sanfor leaned forward, his large eyes wide with anticipation. The humans had surprised him once. Were they about to do it again? The room was silent as the UN Secretary-General took a deep breath. Sanfor and his alien delegation leaned forward, their strange eyes fixed on the human leader. The whole world watched through screens, waiting for the answer that would change everything. Ambassador Sanfor, the Secretary-General said, his voice firm and clear, humanity has decided. We will help you fight the conquerors. A collective gasp echoed through the room. Sanfor's silver skin seemed to shimmer with surprise. He had hoped for this response, but hadn't truly believed it would come. You will? Sanfor stammered, his usual composure slipping. Just like that. The American president stood up, her eyes blazing with determination. Just like that, she confirmed. Earth has never backed down from a fight, especially when the stakes are this high. The Chinese premier nodded in agreement. We may argue among ourselves, he added, but when faced with a common enemy, humanity stands united. Sanfor was stunned. In all the scenarios the Galactic Council had run, they had never predicted such immediate readiness from the humans. These primitive beings were full of surprises, but the biggest surprise was yet to come. The Russian president, who had been angry earlier, now spoke with a grin. We're not just going to help, he declared. We're going to lead the charge against these conquerors. The alien delegation exchanged worried glances. Lead the charge. Surely these humans didn't think they could do better than the advanced races of the galaxy. The young island nation prime minister who had spoken up before now stepped forward. You look confused, Ambassador, she said softly. Let me explain. We humans have a long history of facing seemingly unbeatable odds. It's kind of our thing. She gestured to a screen where images of human history began to play. The aliens watched in amazement as they saw scenes of humans overcoming incredible challenges. They saw small groups stand against mighty empires, saw people rebuild entire cities from ashes, watched as humans pushed the boundaries of science and exploration against all odds. You see, the Prime Minister continued, what you call cowardice, we call strategy. What you see as primitive, we see as thinking outside the box. We're not bound by the same rules and expectations as your advanced races, and that might just be what saves us all. Sanfor felt a strange feeling growing inside him. Was it hope? The UN Secretary-General spoke again. We'll need to know everything about the conquerors, their weapons, their strategies, their weaknesses. We'll combine that with our own military expertise and unconventional thinking. The Japanese defense minister stood up next. We've already begun forming plans, he said, pulling out a tablet. We're thinking guerrilla warfare on a galactic scale. Hit and run tactics. Psychological warfare. Things the conquerors won't expect. Sanfor's large eyes grew even wider. The humans had done all this planning in just 24 hours. Maybe they weren't as primitive as the council thought. As the human leaders continued to outline their ideas, excitement filled the room. For the first time since the conquerors appeared, there was a feeling that maybe, just maybe, the galaxy had a fighting chance. Sanfor raised his hand, calling for silence. Humans of Earth, he said, his voice filled with emotion, on behalf of the Galactic Council and all free beings in the galaxy, I thank you. Your courage and determination are unexpected but deeply appreciated. The Secretary-General smiled. We're full of surprises, Ambassador. The conquerors won't know what hit them. As the meeting concluded, plans were made to bring human representatives to the Galactic Council. Earth buzzed with activity as the world prepared for its first interstellar war. In space, unaware of what was coming, the conquerors continued their advance. They had faced the best the galaxy had to offer and remained undefeated. But they hadn't faced humanity yet, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy what cowardly humans could really do. The days following Earth's decision to join the galactic war were a whirlwind of activity. Humans, known for their ability to unite in times of crisis, threw themselves into preparations with unexpected vigor. A joint task force, named Operation Earthshield, was quickly formed. It brought together the best minds from every nation. Soldiers, scientists, strategists, and even hackers. Their mission: to create a plan that would catch the conquerors off guard. Meanwhile, Sandthor and his team worked tirelessly to bring humans up to speed on galactic technology. They set up a base on the moon, away from prying eyes. Here, Earth's top scientists marveled at devices centuries ahead of their own tech. Dr. Amelia Chen, a brilliant physicist from Singapore, picked up a small, glowing orb. "What's this?" she asked, her eyes wide with wonder. Sandthor smiled. "That's a portable gravity manipulator. It can increase or decrease gravity in a localized area." Dr. Chen's mind raced with possibilities. "Could we use this to disable the conqueror's ships?" she asked excitedly. Sandthor blinked in surprise. "We never thought of using it that way," he admitted. It was the first of many times the aliens would be surprised by human creativity. On Earth, military leaders from around the world gathered to plan their strategy. They pored over holographic maps of the galaxy, studying the conqueror's movement patterns. General Maria Rodriguez, a tough veteran from Brazil, pointed at a cluster of stars. "Look here," she said. "The conquerors always attack in a straight line. They never deviate from their path. They're predictable," added Colonel Yuki Tanaka from Japan. "And predictability can be exploited." The room buzzed with ideas. Hit-and-run tactics, ambushes, even plans to turn asteroids into projectile weapons. The aliens watched in amazement as humans came up with strategies no one in the galaxy had considered before. But it wasn't just the military preparing. Civilians around the world volunteered their skills. Gamers offered insights into strategy and quick decision-making. Survivalists shared tips on adapting to harsh environments. Even history buffs contributed, drawing parallels between the conquerors and past Earth empires. In orbit, work began on retrofitting Earth's satellites for deep space communication. Engineers worked around the clock, fueled by coffee and the knowledge that the fate of the galaxy rested on their shoulders. Sarah O'Connor, a young programmer from Ireland, cracked her knuckles as she stared at lines of alien code. "Right then," she muttered, "let's see if we can't give these conqueror ships a wee bit of a software problem." As preparations continued, the first human representatives arrived at the Galactic Council. They were met with a mix of hope and skepticism from the alien races. Ambassador Lai Wei from China addressed the council. "We understand your doubts," he said calmly. "But understand this, humanity has faced extinction-level threats before. We're still here. The conquerors should be the ones worrying." His words sent a ripple through the assembly. The aliens began to see humans in a new light. Back on the moon base, human ingenuity began to bear fruit. They had combined their own tech with alien advancements, creating hybrid weapons and defenses unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Dr. Chen held up a sleek rifle. "We've integrated your energy weapons with our own targeting systems," she explained to Xanthor. "It's less powerful than your standard weapons, but twice as accurate, and uses half the energy." Xanthor nodded, impressed. "And those?" he asked, pointing to a row of small, spherical devices. "Ah." Dr. Chen grinned. "Those are a surprise for the conquerors. Let's just say they're in for a shock." As the days turned into weeks, a sense of readiness began to replace the initial fear. Humans, with their unique blend of determination, creativity, and adaptability, had accomplished in weeks what other races couldn't in months. The conquerors, unaware of the storm brewing, continued their advance through the galaxy. They had never been defeated, never even been challenged. But humanity was about to change that. The galaxy was about to learn why you should never underestimate the cowardly humans from Earth. The moment of truth had arrived. The conquerors were advancing towards the Orion arm of the galaxy, where Earth's forces waited. Tension filled the air as the combined fleet of human and alien ships prepared for battle. Admiral Jane Foster of the newly formed Earth Space Navy stood on the bridge of the flagship Humanity's Hope. Her eyes were fixed on a holographic display showing the approaching enemy fleet. "All ships, report in," she ordered, her voice steady despite the pressure. One by one, captains from around the world confirmed their readiness. Japanese cruisers, Russian battleships, Chinese carriers, and more, all united under one banner. Beside Admiral Foster stood Xanthor, his silver skin reflecting the dim light of the bridge. "The conquerors have never lost a battle," he said softly. "Are you sure about this plan?" Foster smiled grimly. "There's a first time for everything, Ambassador." Suddenly, alarms blared. The enemy had arrived. Massive black ships, each the size of a small moon, dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They looked like a swarm of giant mechanical locusts, ready to devour everything in their path. "All ships, initiate Operation Trojan Horse," Foster commanded. The human fleet scattered, seemingly in panic. To the conquerors, it looked like easy prey. Their massive ships surged forward, weapons charging. But it was a trap. As the conquerors' ships entered the designated area, Foster gave the signal. Now, hundreds of small, spherical devices activated. These were Dr. Chen's surprise. Gravity bombs. They created localized fields of intense gravity, suddenly pulling the conquerors' ships in all directions. Confusion spread through the enemy fleet. Their perfect formation broke apart as ships struggled against the unexpected gravitational forces. "Phase 2, Foster ordered. Earth's ships darted in and out of the chaos, firing their hybrid weapons with pinpoint accuracy. The concentrated energy beams sliced through the conquerors' shields, which were calibrated for much stronger but less precise attacks. On one of the conqueror ships, alien invaders rushed to their battle stations, but when they tried to activate their weapons, nothing happened. Instead, their screens filled with a strange image, a smiling human face giving a thumbs-up gesture. Sarah O'Connor's hacking program had worked. It had infiltrated the enemy systems, replacing vital combat software with harmless human memes. The battle raged on. Human ships danced around the lumbering conqueror vessels, striking fast and retreating before the enemy could respond. It was like watching a swarm of angry bees take down a group of bears. "Their flagship is vulnerable," reported Colonel Tanaka from his cruiser, requesting permission to engage. "Granted," Foster replied. "All ships, converge on the flagship. Let's end this." The Earth fleet focused its fire on the largest enemy ship. Under the relentless assault, its shields finally failed. A cheer went up across the human ships as the conqueror's flagship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The remaining enemy ships, damaged and confused, began to retreat. For the first time in their long campaign of conquest, the conquerors had tasted defeat. As the last enemy ship disappeared into hyperspace, a stunned silence fell over the human fleet. Then, slowly, cheers began to erupt. Laughter, cries of joy, and tears of relief filled every ship. On the bridge of humanity's hope, Admiral Foster allowed herself a small smile. "Send word to Earth and the Galactic Council," she said. "The battle is won. The conquerors can be beaten." Xanthor stared at the humans around him in awe. "Incredible," he whispered. "You did it. You actually did it." Foster turned to him, her eyes shining with determination. "This was just the beginning, Ambassador. We've got a galaxy to save." As news of the victory spread, celebrations erupted across Earth and on countless alien worlds. The myth of the conqueror's invincibility had been shattered. Hope, which had been in short supply, now flowed abundantly. The galaxy had just witnessed what happened when the cowardly humans stepped up, and this was only the start of humanity's fight against the greatest threat the universe had ever known. The news of humanity's victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had cowered in fear of the conquerors for so long now dared to hope. But the humans knew that one battle didn't win a war. They had only angered the beast. In the weeks that followed, The conquerors regrouped and struck back hard. They attacked multiple systems at once, trying to stretch the human-led forces thin. But humanity was ready. General Rodriguez, now commanding Earth's ground forces, stood in a war room on a distant planet. Holographic maps showed battles raging across dozens of worlds. "They're using our own tactics against us," she muttered, studying the enemy movements. Beside her, a lizard-like alien named Shrax hissed in agreement. "The conquerors learn fast, but so do we." Rodriguez grinned. "Time for some new tricks then," called in the guerrilla squad. Across the galaxy, small teams of human and alien fighters began hit-and-run attacks on conqueror supply lines. They used cloaking technology developed by Earth scientists to appear and disappear at will, leaving destruction in their wake. On the jungle world of Xantar Prime, Sergeant Lee Jong-suk led his team through dense foliage. They moved silently, their armor blending perfectly with the environment. Another human innovation. "Target in sight," Jong-suk whispered into his comm. Ahead, a massive conqueror harvester was stripping the land of resources. "Remember," Jong-suk told his team, which included warriors from 3 different alien races, "we go in fast, plant the charges, and get out, just like we practiced." The squad struck with lightning speed. Before the conquerors knew what was happening, the harvester was exploding, and the attackers had vanished into the jungle. Meanwhile, in space, the battle took on a new dimension. Sarah O'Connor, now head of Earth's Cyber Warfare Division, launched digital attacks that crippled entire fleets. "It's like they've never heard of a firewall." Sarah chuckled as she worked, her fingers flying over holographic keyboards. With a few keystrokes, she turned the weapons of a conqueror battleship against its own fleet. But the conquerors were relentless. For every ship destroyed, they seemed to have 2 more ready. Humanity and its allies were winning battles. But the war dragged on. In a bold move, Admiral Foster proposed a daring plan. "We need to take the fight to their home world," she told the Galactic Council. The alien representatives gasped. No one had ever discovered where the conquerors came from. "Impossible," one counselor cried. "We've searched for centuries." Foster smiled. "You searched the galaxy. We looked beyond it." Dr. Chen stepped forward, holding a small device. "We've detected unusual energy signatures from the void between galaxies," she explained. "We believe that's where they're hiding." The council chamber erupted in excited chatter. Zanfor, now a firm believer in human ingenuity, raised his hands for silence. "If this is true," he said, "it could change everything. But the journey would be perilous. The void between galaxies is unknown territory." "We're ready," Foster replied confidently. Humanity has never shied away from exploring the unknown. As preparations for the intergalactic mission began, the conquerors launched their biggest offensive yet. They struck at the heart of the Galactic Council, clearly hoping to end the war in one decisive blow. But they hadn't counted on the tenacity of their opponents. Humans and aliens fought side by side, holding the line against impossible odds. Every trick, every strategy, every bit of technology they had developed was put to the test. On the front lines, General Rodriguez rallied the troops. "Remember," she shouted over the din of battle, "we're not just fighting for Earth or any single world. We're fighting for the freedom of every species in the galaxy." Her words sparked a fire in the hearts of the defenders. They pushed back against the conquerors with renewed vigor. As the battle raged, Admiral Foster's expedition slipped away, heading into the darkness between galaxies. They carried with them the hopes of countless billions. The tide of war was turning, but the final battle was yet to come. Humanity had brought the galaxy together in ways never seen before. Now, they were about to embark on their greatest adventure yet, a journey into the unknown, to face the conquerors on their own turf. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what these surprising humans would do next. The journey into the void between galaxies was like nothing humanity had ever experienced. Admiral Foster stood on the bridge of the Humanity's Hope, watching as the last stars of the Milky Way faded behind them. Ahead lay only darkness. "We're in uncharted territory now," she said to her crew, a mix of humans and aliens united in purpose. Dr. Chen monitored her instruments closely. "The energy readings are getting stronger," she reported. "We're on the right track." After what seemed like an eternity in the cosmic darkness, they saw it, a massive structure floating in space. It wasn't a planet or a ship, but something in between. This was the home of the conquerors. "It's a Dyson sphere," gasped Sanfor, his eyes wide with awe. "They've built a shell around an entire star." As they approached, the conquerors finally realized they'd been found. Massive weapons ports opened on the sphere's surface, and a swarm of ships emerged. "This is it," Foster said, her voice calm despite the odds. "The final battle. For Earth, for the galaxy, for freedom. All ships, engage." The battle that followed was unlike anything the universe had ever seen. Human ingenuity clashed with the conquerors' advanced technology in a spectacular display of firepower and strategy. Sarah O'Connor, linked directly to the ship's systems, launched cyber attacks that confused the conquerors' targeting systems. "Let's see how they like a taste of their own medicine," she grinned as enemy ships began firing on each other. Meanwhile, Dr. Chen activated a device of her own design. Suddenly, localized wormholes opened across the battlefield, allowing Earth ships to appear and disappear at will, striking from impossible angles. On the surface of the Dyson sphere, General Rodriguez led a daring ground assault. Her troops, using advanced stealth tech, infiltrated the massive structure. "Remember your training," she told them as they moved through alien corridors. "We're not here to destroy, but to disable. The future of the galaxy depends on us." Their objective was the central control room, where they believed the conquerors' leaders would be. As they fought their way through waves of defenders, Rodriguez couldn't help but feel a sense of irony. The so-called cowardly humans were now deep in enemy territory, fighting the battle no one else dared to fight. Back in space, Admiral Foster's fleet was taking heavy losses, but they were giving as good as they got. The conquerors, for the first time, seemed uncertain, their formations breaking under the relentless human assault. Just when it seemed the battle could go either way, Rodriguez's team reached the control room. What they found inside shocked them all. The leaders of the conquerors weren't the fearsome warriors they'd imagined. Instead, they were frail, ancient beings, kept alive by advanced machinery. "We only wanted to survive," one of them said in a weak voice. "Our star was dying. We had to expand, to find new resources." Rodriguez lowered her weapon. "There were other ways," she said, "ways that didn't involve conquering and destroying." As understanding dawned, the fighting slowly ceased. The conquerors, seeing their leaders exposed, lost the will to continue. One by one, their ships stood down. Admiral Foster's voice came over the comms. "We've done it," she said, disbelief and joy mixing in her voice. "The conquerors have surrendered." Cheers erupted across the fleet, across the ground forces, and soon, across the entire galaxy. The war was over. Humanity had led the charge and emerged victorious. In the days that followed, a new era of galactic cooperation began. The Dyson sphere, once a symbol of fear, became a place of learning and collaboration. Scientists from all races worked together to unlock its secrets, finding ways to help worlds ravaged by the war. Earth, once considered a backward planet of cowards, was now hailed as the savior of the galaxy. Humans were welcomed across the stars, their unique blend of creativity, courage, and compassion valued by all. At a ceremony on the Galactic Council's homeworld, Admiral Foster, General Rodriguez, Dr. Chen, and Sarah O'Connor stood proudly as representatives of humanity. Sanfor, now the Council's leader, addressed the assembled races. "Today, we celebrate not just victory, but understanding," he said. "We've learned that true strength comes not from conquest, but from unity, And we've learned never to underestimate those we don't understand. As Foster looked out at the sea of alien faces, all looking to humanity with respect and gratitude, she smiled. The galaxy had called them cowards, but humans had shown what they were truly made of. They had faced the greatest threat in cosmic history and emerged stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. A new age of exploration, cooperation, and peace was dawning, and humanity was ready to lead the way into this bright new future.